Hi, I'm Brenda with Hey Needle, and today we're going to be doing a short assembly video on the Spalding basketball system. The approximate time for this assembly is about an hour and a half. Tools needed for this is an adjustable wrench, a socket wrench, and a pair of pliers, which are not provided. For proper in-ground installation, you want to refer to your ground sleeve owner's manual. You want to start by removing all of your contents from your box. Then you want to take a brief inventory to make sure you have all parts and hardware necessary for this assembly. For this next part, you're going to need your two half ground sleeves, which are labeled as 4, your ground sleeve cap, which is labeled as 5, and your bottom pole, which is labeled as 3. You want to start by placing your cap on. And on the side that the hole's on is where we're going to be inserting our half sleeves. You want to place those on there and just press those together. Now that you have your sleeves snapped together, you want to take your cap and just twist it on. Now we're going to need our middle pole and our bottom pole. We're going to take the side that has the hole. We're going to be inserting our bottom pole into our middle pole. And then using a piece of wood, you want to bounce from the bottom until firmly secured. Now taking your top piece, we're going to insert that onto the middle piece. When securing your poles, you want to make sure that the bottom, middle, and top poles are about an inch away from each label on your poles. And you also want to make sure that your stickers are always facing towards the front. Now we're going to need our backboard brackets labeled as 7, our bolts labeled as 37, and our nuts labeled as 10, and our backboard. Now attach our backboard brackets. We're going to place those right there over the corresponding holes. And then we're going to take our bolts, insert on the 2 far holes. Then we're going to place our nuts on the opposite side. Hand tighten those down first, might be a little bit easier. Now using a 15mm socket wrench and an adjustable wrench, you can tighten those into place. Now you want to repeat these steps on the opposite side. Now you're going to need your spacer labeled as 25, your pawl lever labeled as 13, your bolt labeled as 12, your 2 support brackets labeled as 15, and your nut labeled as 10. Now take your spacer, go ahead and insert that into your pawl lever, and then set that aside. Now you want to take your support brackets. We're going to insert that into our bolt, and then place it right here. And as you're pushing it in, you want to insert your pawl lever. Now you want to push that through the opposite side. And that's when you're going to place your second support bracket on the opposite side. And then you want to insert your nut, tighten that down. Now taking your socket wrench and your adjustable wrench, you want to tighten those into place. Make sure you don't tighten completely. You want your support brackets to be able to move freely. Now we're going to need 2 of our elevator tubes labeled as 11, our spacer labeled as 18, and our 2 spacers labeled as 19, our bolt labeled as 20, our 2 ratchets labeled as 16, our 2 washers labeled as 17, and our nut labeled as 21. Now taking your bolt, you want to place that into your elevator tube. And then you're going to place your spacer labeled as 19. And then inserting through your support bracket. Just barely put that in. Now you want to place your washer labeled as 17 on the inside. And then you're going to place your ratchet with the spokes pointing up. And as you're doing this, just slowly insert your bolt. And then we're going to place our spacer labeled as 18. And then our other ratchet. And now you want to place your second washer. Now you want to push your bolt through just a little bit. Attach your other support bracket. And then completely push through. Now you're going to place your second spacer on your other elevator tube. Now you want to take your nut and just tighten that down. Just don't tighten all the way. Now you're going to need your bolt labeled as 20, your two spacers labeled as 22, your spacer labeled as 18, and your nut labeled as 21. Now take your bolt, and on the second set of holes on your elevator tubes, you want to insert your bolt, and then that's where you're going to place your spacer. And as you're easing your bolt through, you just want to keep adding your spacers. And then you're going to add your second spacer labeled as 18. Put that through the other bottom half of your ratchet. And then place your other spacer. Push it all the way through. And that's when you're going to attach your nut and tighten that down. For this next part, you're going to need your clevis pin, which is labeled as 23, and your two washers labeled as 24. To secure the pawl lever, we're going to be placing our washer over our clevis pin. You want to hold up your pawl lever, insert the clevis pin, and then place your second washer. For this next part, you're going to need your spring labeled as 26 and a pair of pliers. You want to place your spring through the hole of your clevis pin, and then using your pliers, you want to stretch your spring on the notch of your support bracket. Now you're going to need your T-bolt labeled as 28, your slam jam bracket labeled as 29, your bolts labeled as 27, and your nuts labeled as 39. Now you want to insert your T-bolt into the back of your slam jam bracket, and then you want to place this over the 4 holes on the front of your backboard. Now you want to insert your bolts. And on the back side, you want to attach. Now you just want to tighten your nut down. Using your 13mm socket wrench and your adjustable wrench, you want to tighten those into place. For this next part, you're going to need your remaining elevator tubes, your two spacers labeled as 30, your bolt labeled as 20, and your nut labeled as 21. Now you want to take your bolt and insert into your elevator tube. Then you want to insert your spacer. Now we're going to insert into our backboard bracket. Then on the opposite side, you want to insert your spacer, your other elevator tube. Now you want to tighten the nut on the opposite side. For this next part, we're going to need 2 of our nuts labeled as 21, 2 of our bolts labeled as 20, and our pole support. You want to place your pole support on a sawhorse table, and with assistance, you want to take your bolt, insert it into your elevator tube, and then you're going to align the holes with your pole support, insert those in, once you have your bolt through on the opposite side, you'll want to place your nut, now using your adjustable wrench and your 19mm socket wrench, you want to go ahead and tighten those into place. You're now going to need your fit rim, which is labeled as 32, your reinforcement bracket, which is labeled as 33, your spring, which is labeled as 34, your special nut, which is labeled as 36, and your washer, which is labeled as 35. Now we're going to be placing our rim on. You want the T-bolt to go through the middle part of your rim. Now we're going to place our bracket in. You want the T-bolt to go through the middle of that also. Now you want to take your spring, insert that over the T-bolt, and then you want to place your washer on. And now you want to tighten down your special nut over your T-bolt. You want to make sure that your T-bolt and your special nut are flush. Using your adjustable socket wrench, you want to go ahead and tighten that into place. Now we're going to be attaching our net, which is labeled as 38. You want to take it like that and put it under. Make sure you get all of them and you don't skip a piece of your net. Once you have everything tightened into place, you now have your finished Spalding basketball system.